The show's pretty good. It doesn't really have any glaring issues with it. But depending on, what kind of Star Wars fan you are and what your preferences are, and just a few other things in general, you may or may not like the show. There it is. Yeah, that's all you gotta know. Hello, this is IR Smart, and I just wanted to quick talk about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Just get it right out of the way first. The show is good. It doesn't have any big glaring issues with it. It's not gonna cause a bunch of lore problems like The Acolyte. It's not, it doesn't have really major issues going on. It's just an overall solid show. But it's got some things going. You may not like it, but you probably will. The thing is, from what I've heard, not many people have watched this show, so I think a lot of people are kind of just waiting. All the episodes are out now. I just watched the finale, and I gotta say, I didn't like the show when it started off, but as the show went on, I liked it more and more. It's still not for me. I can tell it's not really for me, which is something I'm gonna talk about a little bit more right now, basically. So I didn't like the first two episodes. As soon as that was what they released first, I watched them, and I was like, nah, this isn't for me. Clearly, this is more kid-oriented. It doesn't really have anything really interesting to get me, really into the story. I'm like, all right, there's a bit of a mystery going on. I could kind of see where they're going. It might be interesting. But I decided to stick with the show anyway. I kept watching episodes, and there was more stuff as it went on that I liked that kept me entertained each week. But overall, it's just an okay show. It's pretty good. It doesn't do anything crazy, out of the ordinary, something you've never seen before. It's just entertaining. That's really the best way I can describe it. It's an entertaining show. It's Star Wars. It's fun. It's a fun adventure. It's a fun little adventure about these kids. They go on an adventure. But it is definitely kid-oriented, which I think is a key point here. This show is made for kids. Now, everyone, there's a whole thing about, oh, Star Wars is made for kids. No, Star Wars isn't made for kids. Star Wars is made to sell merchandise. I think we should establish that first and foremost. But Star Wars has always been more kid-focused, but adults just like it. This, though, I think is specifically tailored for kids. It is told from the perspective of the kids in the show, and especially I think the show is, if you're a kid watching this, you're gonna see yourself in at least one of the 4 kids. There's 4 main kids in the show, right? You're gonna see yourself in one of the characters. Young kids are gonna see themselves, and the way that the planet that they start on in the show is very much like Earth, and then they leave that planet and they're like, oh, the Star Wars galaxy is so vast and there's so much going on. That is kind of supposed to be a vessel for kids to be like, oh, I live on Earth, this planet is a lot like Earth, but then these kids go on an adventure on a spaceship, and wow, they're in Star Wars. So this show is meant to get kids into Star Wars. That's the intention. That is absolutely the intention of what this is for. This is Star Wars for a new generation. If you're a parent, you got young kids, and you think, I really like Star Wars, if you're watching me, there's a good chance you like Star Wars. But, if you're a parent with kids, you're the target demographic for the show. The idea is to get your kids into Star Wars. If you maybe don't have kids right now, maybe you plan to have kids in the future, consider this if you ever want to get them into Star Wars. Because, you might be like, oh, I love Revenge of the Sith. Look, kid, we're going to watch Revenge of the Sith. And then you watch a movie that is half people talking.
I'd watch a whole movie that was mostly walking and talking.
Definitely.
Maybe a little action at the beginning and the end, but the middle should mostly be talking.
And also just has a guy burning on fire, which is sure, Revenge of the Sith is great, but I don't think it's a great movie to introduce to your kids, if I'm being completely honest with you. But with this show, it's from the perspective of young children. They're going on an adventure. It's fun, it's jovial, it's lighthearted. It's got all this stuff going for it. So I think that's the intention. This show is made to get kids into Star Wars. Which is why I personally was just kind of yeah. It's I'm looking for Andor. When I go to some Star Wars now, I'm always looking for this. Disney, please give me Andor Season 2 very soon. But this was not anything like Andor. It didn't have, deep, complex characters, incredible, all the great themes, all the stuff I could praise Andor for all the time. It had good stuff going on. Don't get me wrong, Skeleton Crew was still entertaining, but that's really all it was for me. It was just entertaining. It didn't really leave me with anything, of really impactful or anything. It doesn't have too much of an impact on Star Wars lore. There's not really anything this changes Star Wars lore forever, like The Acolyte, nothing for people to freak out over. I will say, though, Jude Law is great in this series. And I haven't seen him in much else, but he was a very good actor. He's a very good actor. He did an amazing performance in this show. Really stood out. Just any episode, I think that's maybe why I didn't like the show until he showed up. So I was like, yeah, these kids, whatever. The kids did a great performance too. Not to say they didn't. I was really impressed with quite a few scenes out of the child actors they got. They did a good job. But especially Jude Law gave a great performance throughout the series. Really interesting character too.
You know what? Just shoot me.
I think he's the most interesting character in the whole show. But again, it's most interesting character in the show, and then any character in Andor and how interesting they are. So again, there's a gap. This show is on the opposite side of the spectrum of Star Wars content. You have Andor, mature, crazy, all these amazing themes, and you have Skeleton Crew, just fun adventure for kids. So they're on opposite sides of the spectrum, and I want Disney to do both. I want Disney to make more stuff like this. Skeleton Crew is good. It doesn't have any glaring issues. It doesn't bring up lore problems. It's just entertaining, and it's for getting young kids into Star Wars, which I think is good. But it's not for me, and I can recognize that. So while I personally wasn't like a huge fan of it, I still enjoyed it, and I found it entertaining, and I think it's a good show. But yeah, the show's kind of cheesy, it's kind of cliche. All of the pirate characters in the show are like, "Yar, I'm a pirate, yar, we're gonna go find treasure, yar." It's very stereotypical in that sense, but I think it kind of works, because the idea with Star Wars is taking something we're familiar with and kind of twisting it and changing it. You know, that's just what it is. It's Star Wars. It's wars, but they're in space with this cool space twist on it. Everything has a space twist on it. That's just what Star Wars is, and that's what this show does. It takes elements we're familiar with, gives them a space twist, you know? A suburban America, but it's space, and there's a mystery of why it's so calm and peaceful, but the Star Wars galaxy is so strange. There's a mystery there to uncover. So Star Wars Skeleton Crew. It didn't really do anything I didn't expect it to do. It was pretty entertaining. It was, fun to watch every week. It got better as it went on. I didn't really like it at first, but it grew on me. It was like, okay, I get this. This is pretty good. A couple things in there, but I was like, oh, okay, that's neat. That's a cool reference to like A New Hope or whatever. But there was no glaring like, oh, look, it's that character from that thing. There wasn't any of that, which is something I really did appreciate and hope they do more in the future. Yeah, that's it. That's the review. Go watch it. I tried to avoid spoilers in this review, because if you're considering, I'll check it out. Just check it out. It's fun. It's pretty short. It's decently entertaining. If you're looking for new Star Wars content, it's good. It's not really weird like The Acolyte, and it's just overall, it's a safe option. They made a safe show. They didn't try to do anything crazy, and that's what it is. It's a safe, fun Star Wars show. So, yeah, check it out if you want to. If you don't, whatever. It's not peak cinema. It's not Andor. It's good. It's a good show. That's all I have to say about it. Yeah. Thanks for listening to my review. Okay. I don't really have anything else to add. How are you guys doing? You having a good day? I hope so. Bye.